Welcome to the Renaissance of Wrestling, where I analyze different aspects of wrestling today, and I see ways that I could either do it better or I see ways that I think it's doing very well. Today, I wanted to touch on a culture that I see is very prominent today, something that no one's really talking about that I think needs to be discussed. And what I want to call this is the signing culture. And what I mean by the signing culture is it's this idea of a wrestler becomes a free agent and this company has to pick them up. They have to go to WWE. This person's a free agent, they have to go to AEW. And these companies, they sign these big marquee free agents because they want to get that pop when they show up to the wrestling company. And it's like, okay, why would you call it a culture? It's like you're kind of speaking negatively on it. And yes, I am. It's something that I think that needs to be slowed down in terms of the topic, because here's the thing. I see it first and foremost when I saw AEW and people were like, "Oh, Cody Rhodes is over there. Got to tune in." Brian Danielson, Miro's over there, formerly Rusev. Alistair Black is over there. Andrade. These are all these names that they got over there, and it gets a very big pop when they show up there. And then what happens after a few weeks? Nothing. Because when you have a roster of 15 to 20 people minimum, of course, they have a lot more than that, but when you have 15 to 20 people who got a big pop because they came over to your brand, because people are expecting them to do big things, at least 10 of those guys are not going to be able to do big things. You can't give a big push to 20 different people. And there's at least 30 to 40 wrestlers right now who have a name that people want to see them heavily pushed. And if you don't believe me, look at it. You could talk about Roman. You could talk about Cody, Andrade, Aleister Black. People still want to see Christian and Edge pushed. Um, Adam Page, Kenny Omega, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre. That's 10 names right off the bat, off the top of my head. I don't even think I mentioned Daniel Bryan yet. Um, what's his name again right now? Why is it not coming to me? Gunther, Braun Breaker, Adam Cole. These are just the first few names that are coming to my head right now. People see these names and they're like, oh, they're going to be on this company. I want to tune in. I want to see them get pushed. But of those 14 names, plus more, not all of them are going to be able to be the big guy. A couple of them might be able to hold a mid card title. But because of that, there's going to be quite a lot of them who are going to be just in, they're just going to be in there. They're just going to be a part of the brand. And the problem that comes with this is when that happens, people start getting upset, saying, I expected this person to get pushed when they came over here. You guys don't push your stars. I don't like this company no more. But really and truly, that's not fully the case for either company. The couple of companies I think that don't get it really is New Japan Pro Wrestling, because they don't get that much eyes in the American audience. They're huge in Japan, of course. They're huge over there in Japan, and they're one of the biggest companies. I'm not saying that in any way. But if we're talking about in America, they don't really have as much eyes in American TV as the other ones do. That's the biggest reason I don't think they get that criticism as much. But really and truly, what I'm getting to is if you rely on signings to get you pops, you're not relying on the actual talent to do it. And when you can't rely on the actual talent, you're showing that you're not able to build up specific stars. And there's a huge hipster signing culture of fans who love to see these signings and love to see a wrestler get built up. They don't recognize the stars that they have in front of them that a company needs to build. Roman's one of the biggest stars today, and people don't like it because he's one of the hugest stars. He gets so heavily pushed. I'm realizing now I didn't even mention Seth Rollins, um, Will Ospreay, Jay White, so many names I didn't even mention yet. But the point that I'm getting back to is People don't recognize Roman being pushed so heavy because he does a lot for the company. People like sponsors look at him and they're like, okay, we want to sponsor. People look at him and they're like, we want to buy that action figure. I like who Roman is. He's the big star. You need these big guys. A company needs to show their ability to build a big guy like this in whatever way it is needed. And when we don't see that in a company, we're just seeing them signing a bunch of guys that hipsters just want to watch grow and never actually become that guy. My theory is for a wrestling company, you might want to sign one or two big guys. Take one or two big names that are big wrestling signings. But from there, you want to focus on your in company talent. You want it to feel like a family. Because when you have a roster of, say, 20, 30 people, and they're able to recognize, okay, these 5 guys are at the top of the echelon. These are the guys that are going to work their ass off to help build this company up. There's a lot more respect that happens in that locker room. If you look at ECW, you look at WWE in the Attitude Era, you look at even TNA when they were coming up, that it was that. Actually, I think we can all use TNA as a perfect example because a lot of us, we grew up watching TNA. That was our alternative for a lot of us who are wrestling fans right now. If you recognize, if you look at it, when TNA was really popping at its most, when TNA was really at its most popular, they weren't relying on other company signings. They were building up AJ Styles, Samoa Joe. Sting, of course, was in WCW before, but they still built him up and treated him like an in-house talent. When you look at it today, someone gets signed, and I mentioned this because everyone's talking right now about MJF, him potentially being a free agent and how he should go to WWE. But here's the thing. You want to put him on WWE because you want to see WWE push him, but how is he actually going to fit in the program? What makes MJF so great on the mic is that he's able to be unhinged. He's able to just say what he wants and be as un-PG as he wants to. He's not going to get that in WWE. He's going to be heavily censored as to what he can say, and it's going to completely dilute the character of MJF. Now, this is not to say I don't think MJF is as great of a character to still do something different and make it hit. It's just the way that he's been built up already and the way that he's already hitting for the fan base is not going to be able to happen. And we're always going to look at it and be like, man, we wish we had this because we know that in WWE would have been so huge. On top of it, you got to say to yourself, okay, you bring him over here to have to get built up. Where is he going to fit? Where is he going to fit right now when you have Seth, Gunther, Drew, Roman, Cody, these 5 guys at the very top of the echelon? Damian Priest are still kind of playing around with the idea of him being there. Braun Breaker's already over there. You have these guys who are already at that top tier. People still want to see LA Knight get pushed in WWE. And then you have MJF on top of that. It's not going to work. It's not going to work out. It's just signing him to get the big pop and the big excitement, and then it's not going to work out from there. Look at right now, and I do feel like it's a bit too early to really say it, but at the same time, I don't fully think it's too early. But Andrade went over to WWE. He's on Raw right now. Huge signing. The pop he got was insane. And to do something with him is very big for WWE and these wars between them and AEW. But it feels like what's really going on with him? I think he's only had maybe one match since the Royal Rumble and coming back. I don't even know exactly what they're doing with him. It looks like they're going to do something with the Judgment Day with him, but I don't fully get what they're going to do with him. People are so excited to see. I can't even mention how many different AEW signings that people were excited to see. And a lot of them just, I don't know what they're doing with them. And people complain about that. People complain about AEW not pushing Wardlow. They complain about the AEW not pushing Adam Cole enough, even though he's in one of the biggest storylines right now. They complain about Aleister Black not being having any forward momentum going. And what it comes down to is people want to see these new guys get pushed, but at the same time, they want to see the guys that are there already that have been building up the company also get pushed. But they also want to see them get pushed by utilizing the guys who are already pushed. And when you have this triangle going on, this trifecta that does not interweave with each other, it doesn't help. On top of that, you look at the locker room culture, and you have these guys who are huge signees coming over, and they're gonna have huge egos. Because how are you gonna tell someone who's a new signee that's a huge marquee signee that the fans want to see? How are you gonna tell them in the locker room to respect the locker room rules? How are you gonna tell them that the locker room vet that they gotta respect him? Look at it like this. I'm gonna use Will Ospreay as an example. I'm not even saying he's this kind of person, but I think this example, you guys can understand what I'm saying with the example, and understand it's a story that could come full circle. If Will Ospreay went to, let's say, SmackDown, for example, or let's say he went to Raw, right? And he does something that pisses off the Miz, and Miz is like, "Yo, like you need to respect, the locker room culture. You're starting up small for a reason. Give it some time." Will Ospreay is big enough in the Indies. He was big enough in the Indies. He was big enough for him to have this attitude to be like, "Who are you to tell me what to do? I want to get pushed right now because these people want me. Screw you. You can't tell me what's good." He could come in with this attitude because he's pushed heavy already. So when you have and again, this is not him per se. So I'm separating what I'm saying from it being necessarily Will Ospreay, because he's not even in WWE. But when you have a bunch of independent signees who come in with their egos, and you mesh it with the people who are already built up within the company, it doesn't bode well. And then if they have to go through the ringers of being built up slowly, you have fans who are not satisfied with that. The people who wanted that pop are not satisfied with that person going through the small grind. Does anyone remember when AJ Styles first debuted for WWE? People were so mad that he was number 3 in the Royal Rumble. But I will always stick by saying I think that was the best place for him to debut. Number 1, number 2 is way too cliche. Number 30 is also too cliche. It's overdone. The most surprising thing of him coming in was how he was brought in at number 30. You saw Roman, and I can't remember who Roman started the Royal Rumble with. He eliminates that person, makes it feel like, all right, who's next up? Who's the third person that's going to come into the Royal Rumble? 10, 9, 7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1. You hear this music that you've never heard before. Roman's looking confused. You're feeling confused as well. But then you hear the crowd cheering and chanting. And then it turns over and you see AJ and you're just like, "Oh my gosh, this is actually happening." If he came in at number 1 or 2, he's just going to be another return that came at 1 or 2. He comes in at 30, he's just another surprise pop at number 30. So what's the next best thing for him not to feel like everyone else? Number 3. But no one was happy with that. No one was satisfied. And this is where I say there's a signing culture that we need to kind of think logically if a company needs to sign. I actually think, to be honest with you, I don't want to see WWE, for example, hot take. I don't want to see them sign any more hot free agents, and I don't think they should. They have enough great talent in NXT to build up, enough guys on their main roster that they're building up. They don't need that. Focus on what you guys have in-house, build that up, and that's what's going to give that person a fan base that's going to work. So let me know what you guys think about me consider this signing culture. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you agree, like the video. If you disagree, let me know why. If you agree and you want people to also see it, share the video. Other than that, thank you for listening. Peace.